London wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to today's Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And today, joining me to talk about the news, we firstly have Clark.
What's good?
Shad.
What up, what up, what up?
And Josh.
How's everybody doing? What's going on?
We've got a stacked show for you guys today, and we're just going to jump headfirst into the new topic with some new fancy graphics on the side as well for the news-based shows like this one. And let's just jump straight into the first one, because in case you guys didn't see this week's episode of WWE Raw, they showed a QR code like they've been doing a lot lately. And this QR code took you to a bit of like a coding type website. And there was a few words you could enter. But if you eventually entered the right word, it took you to a video. And this video, right, it showed basically Howdy going up to, well, somebody who seemed like Howdy going up to somebody's house and leaving a note. But then it just showed the number 5 on the screen, and it was huge as well. It was blatant. It was clearly a big significance, right? And in case you guys remember, a couple of years ago, well, not even a couple of years ago, he had it in his bio the entire time from a couple of years ago. Bray Wyatt had Wyatt 6 in his Twitter like bio thing. And a lot of fans are speculating, hey, they're going to do the Wyatt 6, but obviously they're going to pay tribute to Bray Wyatt and just have the Wyatt 5 instead now, or the Howdy 5, or whatever they want to do. But the internet's now debating what's going on, what's going to happen, and who could the Wyatt 5 possibly be? Clark, I want to get your thoughts on this one off the gate, out of the bat, sure. Who could be in the Wyatt 5?
I love this kind of stuff. It cracks me up. I think it's one thing that's great about wrestling. I think the lost art of the vignettes leading to a big reveal is a factor for sure. I mean, you think about the Y2J clock, you think about, or countdown, things like that. Even Veer's coming cracks me up to this day. But at the same time, I'm not totally sure. We did see Matt Hardy appear on TNA, but I don't know what the deal is with that. Matt Hardy would have been a logical pick there. I think Alexa Bliss is probably a shoe-in when it comes to this one. As far as the others, I'm wondering if they're going to be more like characters, and we won't be positive who's under the mask or under the character. We'll figure it out eventually, but out of the gates during the reveals, I'm thinking these have to be sort of unique characters, maybe even tied to the Funhouse or tied to Bray history. Eric Rowan would make a lot of sense, but maybe not necessarily as Eric Rowan. Maybe, under a mask of sorts, playing a different character. Braun Strowman might make sense, but maybe not necessarily as Braun Strowman. Something to freshen up those two, so it's not just a blatantly like, hey, they were in the Wyatt family, look, they're in this group too. Some link maybe to their former characters, but more, monster-like, right, to fit this Wyatt 5-6 aesthetic. And I think less their original characters from the family, because I don't want it to be just the Wyatt 5 with the 2 remaining members of the family. That seems odd to me. Let's freshen it up a little bit, maybe reference those characters, but change it up slightly. That's the way I would at least go about it.
No, I think that's a great shout. And I mean, you mentioned Eric Rowan. That could well be a possibility. There's a lot of people as well who are speculating perhaps The Fiend could come back. In that Bray Wyatt, the phenomenal Bray Wyatt documentary, they revealed a Fiend costume, which has never been worn before. I mean, maybe, like you said, maybe they just bring somebody back and put them in the Fiend outfit. So we don't necessarily know who's under the mask, but they're there. And I don't know, but it really could be exciting.
Another name that I would add to that list is Joe Gacy. I would love to see Joe Gacy in this group. I think he would be awesome in this group and a great fit.
I mean, I don't know whether or not this is a bit controversial to say. I know that, anybody other than maybe Bo, people don't want to see as the Fiend. But Joe Gacy has the perfect, I think, like lock and in-ring ability.
Yeah.
To be the Fiend, I reckon. If it's not going to be Bo, if he's going to be Howdy.
It's not a bad shout. It's not a bad idea. I don't hate it.
Oh, it absolutely would not be. We have a few Instagram comments here. Albert_Turtle77 says Liv Morgan could be one, or even Cross and Alexa. Ooh.
Wasn't it rumored at one point that Liv was going to be Sister Abigail back in the day? That there was a possibility of that?
Very back in the day, that really was. I remember. I think Bray himself addressed it that was something which was talked about and then just abandoned basically, and probably for the best. But and then I think at one point wasn't there like a photo of her dressing up as Sister Abigail, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that's correct.
We have a comment here from Numero One Superfly saying the Wyatt Five should be Bo Dallas, Dexter Loomis as Husky the Pig, Liv Morgan as Sister Abigail, Eric Rowan, and a mystery person. I mean, Husky the Pig. That's a wild shout.
That'd be like a Husky Harris, I guess, reference, and then Huskus the Pig Boy, who was in the Firefly Funhouse. I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dexter fits that aesthetically speaking.
No, yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's a wild shout, Dexter being Husky, but I mean, it could well be. And I mean, here's the thing though, it's a great shout from you, Numero One, because we haven't seen Dexter Loomis for a very long time now, have we? And he's been out injured, but Gargano seems to have moved on from him. Indy, I mean, I forgot about that, but Indy's now turned heel. The way's in the mud. The way doesn't know the way around anymore. But
the way has lost its way.
Oh no, the way is not strong in the way. It does not know the way. But Shad, I want to get you in next. I want to ask you your thoughts on this. Wyatt 5, who could it be? Is it a good idea? Are you excited? All of the questions under the sun. No pressure.
I'm not gonna lie to you. That last comment kind of eliminated a lot of people that I potentially was thinking about being a part of this faction. And the other part is I don't know if it is going to be an entire faction with 5 people. It's obviously a wait and see kind of thing. I think it's something that we do like. It would make sense because it is paying homage to, a lot of things tied to the Bray Wyatt Fiend character lore, as well as just what we didn't get to see on this second stint with him. Obviously, with him unfortunately losing, his life. But if I was to pick people, I kind of got a different idea. Let's keep it 5. Let's make it Uncle Howdy as the, ringleader, the boss. And let's have 4 women be the other members.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Nikki Cross, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Isla Dawn.
Oh, that's an interesting selection.
I feel like it would be completely different. But it would be something, I don't know, of a different style. But if we like, I think that would be so cool because Nikki Cross is a person that is very good within character as well as playing kind of darker characters. Alexa Bliss, we know the great work that she's done. She's been a phenomenal worker. I mean, you could even make the 5. You can add Isla Dawn and Alba Fire to it as well. Have it 5. That's the Wyatt 5, right? But I feel like you can add a lot of them and make it a darker character and kind of fit the, it's difficult for me to say because Bray's his brain is so like out there. He's such a genius where it ties the stuff that I don't even know exactly what the backstory. Like the initial first QR code, my wife caught what it meant first, and there's so much like hidden meaning within it. It could be a lot, but I mean, a lot of these people that everyone's been saying. I mean, Eric Rowan has been a person that has ties to it. Braun, I don't know because I feel like Braun is also great for who he is as a character, being the big, strong brute character. But Liv, just how she's going in a darker path would make sense. Alexa, just with the ties to it, it'd be interesting. But I like what Clark said about Joe Gacy. I was gonna honestly say Joe Gacy, maybe a Sean Spears.
Oh,
What he's doing right
somebody
now
said
too.
that on Instagram too.
Yeah, maybe a Sean Spears would be good. But I'm excited for it all, man. It's gonna be fun once we kind of see what the vision of it is.
Well, you mentioned Howdy potentially just not being in that 5. Well, that's another theory. Another theory is, hey, Howdy was the only one very briefly shown in this video. Well, people speculate it's him. maybe he's not one of the 5. Maybe they are actually doing the original 6, and they're just saying that Howdy's going to visit 5 different people. I mean, that's also a possibility, and it's interesting. It's fun to speculate on this. We have Albert_Turtle77 saying, what if Roman Reigns was, as he did relinquish the original SmackDown title to Bray?
Whoa.
No, he relinquished it to did he relinquish it to Bray? I thought he relinquished. No, I think he just had the opportunity to challenge for it at Main. I don't think he relinquished.
He also returned. He returned and speared Bray and called him a freak in a mask, which was like one of my favorite one-liners of a pandemic show ever. You're just a freak in a mask. So good.
No, that was crazy, and I didn't even catch that at the time as well. To be honest with you, I didn't even catch it until years later when you told me about it, Clark.
It's my favorite. Like, it's the ultimate opening of the return, because I remember watching it with my mom, and it's the pandemic. We made a tradition of like getting pizza and watching all the pay-per-views or the PLEs during the pandemic.
Yeah,
and I rewound it twice to make sure I heard it right. I'm like, I can't believe he just spears him, stands over him, and calls him a freak in a mask. I'm like, oh, this is the Roman Reigns we've always wanted. That's Roman Reigns.
No,
like, we didn't get the big dog. This is different.
It was so good. I remember those first initial few weeks with the Bloodline where you saw Heyman and Reigns together, and the internet just exploded.
Oh, the Heyman reveal
quite as much either at those early days.
The Heyman reveal in the locker room is unbelievable. Who's he talking to? And then they pan the camera over, and that grin on his face. Oh, that was some of the best stuff.
It truly, truly was. I mean, I think we had another comment here. Yes, one NONLYD is saying, I want Braun to wear the new Fiend costume. I mean, he's another one who potentially could play the Fiend. People seem to be keen on the Fiend returning, and so am I. But I do think there's some backlash about it, and we're going to have to wait and see how people would react to that. I hope positively, because that's how Bray would want people to respond to it. But you never know. You never know at all. Josh, what about you? Wyatt 5, Wyatt 6. Who could it be?
Yeah, I have very similar opinions as you guys do. I kind of, said the same kind of people when I first thought about it. I originally, what came to mind, Uncle Howdy, of course, Alexa Bliss, Eric Rowan potentially, Braun Strowman potentially. And the Liv Morgan name also came to mind when I just thought about a character that could really fit the role, as well as Joe Gacy. Again, perfect for the role. However, I feel like in a scenario where if we're doing like the let's get the original gang back together kind of with Bliss and Rowan and Strowman, I feel like it would be kind of weird just to throw Gacy in there, or someone that really wasn't correlated with Bray at all. Like, I get he's a dark character, but I feel like it would just seem a bit odd to just throw another wrestler in there that wasn't correlated with him at all. So I don't know about Gacy if they're doing that whole, like, let's get the gang back together thing, but I do like the idea of that 5. And I did also think about that whole Fiend costume thing before you guys said it, and I agree. I think it would be great. And of course, we were introduced to that new costume concept in the documentary. And I do understand why there could be backlash, why people could feel differently about it. But, what if, Taylor Rotundo or someone else wrestled in that costume, and separate from his Uncle Howdy costume, if Bo Dallas did it and as a separate character as a whole, it would be a tribute and a great memory to show that his brother Bray Wyatt, his characters and ideas, they're going to live on forever. And I think that would be something really special. And I know he doesn't really have the same build as him, so I'm not sure how that would work out, but I feel like it'd be really special to see him play 2 characters and one kind of symbolizing his brother. I think that'd be great. And in terms of, I guess we touched a lot on who we want to see and stuff. So I guess kind of I want to touch on a little bit of like when we want to see this. I think a pay-per-view would be a great time to introduce this faction, kind of like how the Shield kind of interrupted Survivor Series and they made their big debut. I think that like this faction could be a very, very dominant. They could be the biggest faction. So why not have them interrupt a pay-per-view? Like, it could be whoever. It doesn't have to be them, like they could beat up Cody Rhodes in the end of Backlash, and then the lights go off and all the fireflies are lighting up France, and then the show ends. Like, a shot like that would be really, really cool. Not only just remembering Bray, but also seeing the beginning of this new faction. It would be great to see them end up pay-per-view or, a premium live event like that. So I think that would be great. Maybe Backlash is a little too soon, just because they're doing all these teases and these QR codes, and I think they want to build this up as much as possible, just like they did with Bray's return in 2022. So I can see this maybe going on past Backlash, but definitely let's get this going at a pay-per-view. It'd be great. End the show with it, just like they ended Extreme Rules with it with Bray Wyatt's return. So that would be great. I thought that
sick.
It would really work well. And yeah, I mean, we got this Wyatt 5 pretty much confirmed, I think, and I think we're just going to keep our eyes out for more hints and let the tech-savvy people on Twitter continue to pick to all these meetings and stuff, and I'm just going to read about it because I'm not that smart technologically, but I'm looking forward to it.
Fair enough. I'm not going to lie, Josh. I didn't do this coding thing either. I let those smarter people on Twitter do the job instead. We got Soul in the comments saying that he is broke after he bought some tickets to Clash at the Castle earlier today. Controversially high ticket prices for Scotland. I know supply and demand, but at the end of the day, they don't want to do Endeavor can't fall into the trap of pricing events like UFC events because WWE's audience has always been very family based, and they don't want to be pricing families out of that.
You look at this past weekend with the Garcia and Haney fight. The first thing Oscar De La Hoya admitted was in the promotion that he bid off more than he could chew and set the ticket prices too high in the first 10 rows. Said it was the biggest mistake they made all weekend, and that's why a lot of the gate came in late because they had to lower the prices. So it really interesting. Like it's not even just for Clash. Like that seems to be a problem in combat sports, period. Right? I mean, you look at those UFC 300 prices. That was unbelievable. You'd think just go to a bigger stadium.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, in Scotland, I think they can't do it because of the weather.
Right.
I think that's their concern about it. And I mean, yeah, I don't think they're going to have an issue selling it. I think they'll sell it easily. But the fact is, for WWE to survive for generations, it needs to be a family-orientated thing. That doesn't necessarily mean it's PG. Clark, you've told stories so many times of when you were younger going to these events and, sometimes having to, not see certain things. But it's meant to be a family thing. It's meant to be it's not meant to be something for kids, but it's meant to be something that families can go watch together.
I agree. There's a balance. There's a balance for sure. Like the crudeness of the 90s, I don't think ever should come back. But I do like a little bit of edge. And I think you can sort of, I would say, raise the age. Like occasionally it can get to a place where it's like if we're booking to 4 to 6 year olds, that's difficult, right? Like let's raise that age a little bit maturity wise so that there can be some story depth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. But yeah, basically, moral of the story, WWE, come on now. Don't be silly with ticket prices. Obviously, there's a high demand for them, but that doesn't mean you should just make them tons of money, right? Because yes, you're going to make more money, but think long-term here, not short-term. And at the end of the day, you guys say, they're now together forever. Well, you need to make sure it's forever. And you can't be, dumb and start cutting out families. But hey, let's now quickly move on because we have a next topic to jump straight into, and it's an important one indeed. It's also one which, sorry, still getting used to the new tech. But this is basically, guys, in case you guys haven't seen on Twitter, Finn Balor has confirmed that if he was in the Wolf of Wall Street, he ain't, word I cannot say, leaving. He's going nowhere. He's staying put in WWE. Balor is in it for the long haul, and he is staying put. Damian Priest, his faction mate, world champion. Could we see Finn Balor finally win a world championship once again? Could well do. Clark, let me know your thoughts on this.
I'm excited that he's back. I think of all of the people in WWE currently that have New Japan connections, he would be the most awkward fit for AEW. I don't think he can take the demon character to AEW, even if he wanted to. And I think that's such a, it's suffered some damage the character has. But at the end of the day, something that he's always got in his back pocket, and absence makes the heart grow fonder. I think if and when he does bring that back, it'll still get a big reaction. It's one of the best things he does. It's amazing to me too how he's such a sublime bell-to-bell wrestler as Finn Balor, and then he becomes the demon, and it's almost like every move somehow becomes more impactful. It's like an extra gear. And the way that he's been able to achieve that in those type of matches, I think is huge for him. So AEW isn't really a big fit. New Japan isn't really a great fit again. He did quite a bit over there already. To stay in WWE was absolutely the right move. And I think also we're not nearing the end of the Judgment Day, but it's starting to be phased out slightly here. They're kind of going to go their separate ways, it appears, in the maybe not near future, but sooner rather than later, I think. And that for Finn, I hope he gets a big boost, because I think the one day world championship thing being a chip on his shoulder is a great story we can tell in the next 2 to 5 years. And having him back at WWE, that stone is still unturned. He's had his chances, but actually have a rise, I think it's got to be as a baby face. That's what I'm hoping for. I love him as a heel. He's awesome. He's one of the most versatile performers on the planet. But I would love for this big run to be a babyface run for Finn. I think he deserves it, and I think he's earned it, putting in a lot of work. I mean, I look at what he was doing right around the pandemic, pre-pandemic, going to NXT by choice to sort of revitalize himself. I love things like that. The guy's self-aware and he's an awesome performer, so it's great to have him still in WWE.
No doubt about it. And you mentioned, possible split. I think that is coming real soon. Damian Priest is teasing it now as well. So is JD. I reckon we're gonna have a babyface Balor versus Damian Priest. Who knows? Maybe at Clash. Maybe in Scotland. Maybe, at SummerSlam. Who knows? But I think it'll be fairly soon. And I think it's going to be epic. And I hope that Balor finishes his story too. We love people finishing our story.
Picks it back up. I think he picks the story back up more than finishes it.
Yeah.
He did get the win. He's the first Universal Champ.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't. He said it doesn't count because he got injured and all that. So we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, it does count. But
I watched it. It counts. I'm sorry.
I want to tell you guys about our great friends, because the Judgment Day might probably not be great friends for much longer, but our friendship with Next Level holds strong. Guys, if you guys don't know who Next Level are, they basically put all our links to us all in one place. You want to find our Twitch? It's there. You want to find our Twitter? It's there. YouTube, Instagram, all the links, it's all there. Plus exclusive content. They have their own app. It's free. It's got a thriving wrestling community. And just in case that wasn't enough, they do regular giveaways as well. Click that link, scroll to the bottom, and you can see whatever giveaways are available. I think the 2K one might be over now, or if it's either the 24th or the 26th it finishes on. But hit that link, scroll to the bottom, and you'll find out anyway. They're great guys. And it's nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic to see all our content across all platforms, all linked in one place. It's easy, it's free, you have nothing to lose, and it just makes your life easier and our lives easier. And again, they're fantastic guys. But moving on, I want to now talk to you guys about a certain somebody who's caused a little bit of controversy in the wrestling space in the last few days.
Goldberg. Go. See the pyro? Y'all can't see it. Okay, never mind.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. I've been burnt by it just there. But Goldberg, I mean, he went on a podcast and he said, AEW wanted to bring me in. I had conversations and I like Tony Khan, but I think their product sucks and I don't want to go near it. That is basically what he said. It's very simplified, but that is along the lines of what he said here. And people are saying, no way is that true. And I don't believe it. Did you believe it, Shad?
I don't. So he called it cheesy, and I have to ask, you were part of WCW at the latter end right before it closed shop with Vince Russo booking. What are you talking about cheesy, bro? Like, I'm tired of guys like Bill Goldberg, feeling jaded and salty about the industry, feeling that he's entitled to some sort of big send off for his career when he is the most overrated mega superstar name in the entirety of professional wrestling. Like, we spoke about the Oscar stuff a few months ago, and it's what is your purpose of AEW doesn't owe you anything. Now, let me say this: Tony Khan is a big wrestling fan. Obviously, he has a lot of influence and inspiration from WCW. He spoke it on the record prior to it before, so there's probably sentimental value having somebody like Goldberg with also being a big time name. I'm just saying he's overrated. I'm not saying he's not a big time name coming into AEW doing stuff. He's wrestled in the WWE, but you don't need to get him, TK. And I think, to be real with you, I think the problem with AEW at times is leaning on these nostalgia acts and trying to blend it in with the young, talented in-ring wrestlers that they already have. The Jerichos, the Hardys, the Jeff Jarretts. They're not needed or essential for weekly television, and nobody watches AEW to watch them wrestle. Jericho did what he needed to do to get them on the map, being that name 5 years ago. But now it's a pain to watch him weekly because he's not giving you anything of substance. AEW needs to stick with their guns. You have stars and you have vets that can still work and that are good for the business. You don't need somebody like Goldberg. Goldberg does nothing for them. He's gonna come off just like how Jeff Jarrett is for him. But even at least with Jeff Jarrett, he's a guy who's here for the business. Goldberg's not here for the business, and he can be mad and upset. He probably, couldn't come to negotiations on a good deal because he thinks he's worth more than he is. That's not the case, man. Nobody wants you. Your buddy Vince ain't here no more. Hunter don't like you. You burning bridges in AEW. Call up them at NWA and see if you can get a match with Tyrus.
Oh, this. Numo one Superfly saying, why would AEW want Goldberg? Realistically, basically he can just come in and bury Vince McMahon for not giving him his retirement match. I mean,
well, who's he gonna have a retirement match with? Like, there's not anybody on. The thing is this: so like a person like Sting, that makes sense because Sting is a guy who respects the business, and he wasn't here to be a wrestler. He was here to be part-time act in a sense and be tied to Darby Allin. Sting works. Goldberg, he's not gonna do that. He don't care about the next. He's not gonna put nobody over, or he's not gonna give you some sort of match to help you put anybody over. He's gonna want to win, and he's gonna want to squash someone. Like what, him and Wardlow? Like this. Come on, man.
The thing is, Tony Khan's like allegedly good friends with him, right? I mean, both of them have said it, so I don't think there's any allegedly about it. They're good friends. So it makes sense, I guess, why he'd want to bring him in. But I agree, it'd make no sense for it, really.
No friend of mine is calling my product cheesy on a podcast. That's not a real friend. I would never.
No, it's not true.
Calling it cheesy that's the most disrespect you can have about a product. Like that ain't cool, man. Like if he's really your friend, TK is a nicer guy than I would be in regards to that. I seen him cut up on people on Twitter. I would have cut up on Goldberg if I was him. Give him the same tweets I would have gave Bischoff. Like it, don't be afraid of him, TK. Ain't no young.
I mean, I'd respect. To be fair, I'd retweet a Tony Khan diss on Goldberg. I'd like that one. But let's now move on because I now want to bring you in, Josh, because I want to talk about a certain somebody who was released yesterday from WWE, and it's always sad to see when releases happen, but I mean, honestly, I think this one long term is going to be for the best. If you guys missed it, Cameron Grimes was released. I did an entire rant about it. This guy was perfect. I've said it on the podcast before. This guy was perfect for WWE. He had the in-ring skills, he had the character work, and he had a great promo ability. Plus, he could reinvent himself. So you could basically be whatever you want him to be. And they just didn't even give him a chance. Well, hey, now he's a free agent. The world's his oyster. And Josh, what do you reckon is next for Mr. Cameron Grimes?
Yeah, I mean, you just said it well now. You said it well in the rant. This sucks. It really, really does suck. I was always a fan of Grimes. He had a good look. He had great mic work. He could put on good matches. He had the talent to be a main roster, reliable mid-card heel with a unique look for a long time. He could be a trustworthy talent for WWE to just put people over and take people and just, you know, I don't expect him to be a main card. I'm a high card guy, but mid card, he could work there for sure. And I'll never forget his feud with LA Knight for the $1 Million Championship. I thought that was a great storyline. That was what really introduced me to Grimes. And, you know, he's so talented in the ring. Good luck, as I mentioned. And he already has that fame behind him. So in terms of what's next, this is a step back in his career. But what he has to do now is take that step back and transform that into 2 steps forward. Just like Mustafa Ali did, just like Nick Nemeth did, just like Matt Cardona did. Do the same thing. Follow in their footsteps. They've been great examples of what to do post WWE release because it's worked out for all of them. Go take over and show WWE what they missed out on. Go, you know, you can main event hundreds of different independent shows and put on a banger every night. Or perhaps my first opinion when I saw this was go to TNA. I mean, TNA is reviving themselves very, very well. And I just saw Mustafa Ali tweeted at Grimes yesterday during the release, and he said, "We'll be awaiting your arrival." So imagining Grimes competing against people like Mustafa Ali, Ace Austin, Matt Cardona, Mike Bailey, just very exciting. And every match you put him against, it just sounds good. And plus with this whole non-complete clause that's going on, who knows, he could show up at any time maybe. So that's also something good to keep.
Yeah, that law is not going to kick in
You don't think
until
so?
later this year, and it's
Yeah, he's
also
stuck.
likely going to
So
be
he's stuck. So he's going to be stuck.
Yeah.
Well,
90 days.
yeah. Well, 90 days from now.
So, who knows? 90 days from now, he could show up anywhere. But I mean, Josh, I like what you said. I like what you said about TNA, and I like what you said about the independents. If I was him, I'd go to TNA. I'd do what Matt Hardy is doing right now and work there, not on a contract. You're not going to win a title if you do that, but you can also do indies at the same time. And hey, a year from now, your stock might be huge, and All Elite Wrestling or World Wrestling Entertainment might offer you a huge deal again, like you said.
Yep, 100% agree.
It's exciting, and he's a heck of a talent. He certainly is. I mean, Albert's Turtles are saying, you know, look what EC3 did as well. He went a different way about it, and he found success for sure. In the comments over on YouTube, said Numon Superfly says that he feels really bad for Cameron Grimes. He shouldn't have been drafted if there was no plan for him. Exactly. I don't get it. I don't get it one bit. But anyway, let's now focus on a bit more, well, I say a bit more of a positive topic. Let's now talk about how they messed up with Cameron Grimes, was calling him up from NXT too early. Let's hope they don't do that in this year's draft, because this year's draft is on Friday. They talked about some of the rules for it today on social media, and they basically revealed that all NXT stars are eligible if they want to be, but they're not necessarily in it. But any of them can be drafted, but they're not in the draft pool, if that makes sense. Also, champions aren't eligible as well, in case you guys haven't seen that this year. And same as normal, starts on SmackDown, finishes on Raw, and it should be a fun few days. But now when it comes to NXT stars getting the call up, this is when it gets really interesting to talk about right now. Because, I mean, there's obviously the most obvious one is Ilya Dragunov, who, of course, last night lost to Trick Williams in NXT Spring Break. And yeah, he is no longer the champion. He appeared on Raw a few weeks ago. That one could well be happening. Bron Breakker's recently been called up as well. So there's a few NXT guys. But Shad, Clark, I'm going to start it with you, Shad, right? You cover NXT with Clark every Tuesday night. NXT off the air. Throw those twos up. I want to get your thoughts on this. What names do you reckon are going to get called up from NXT to the main roster? Of course, we did a mock draft a couple of days ago, and we drafted everyone under the sun. But in all reality, who do you reckon's getting the call?
So most important thing is it has to be someone who is gonna be able to be an impact player on the main roster. We saw guys last year get drafted. They never got an opportunity. A Cameron Grimes, unfortunately, a Zion Quinn, Odyssey Jones, Von Wagner. I don't want it to be the same situation here. So I got a couple people. In the men's side, Ilya Dragunov, no longer champion, kind of accomplished all he needed to do in NXT and showed last week he can work the main roster. In-ring ability, phenomenal. Great on the mic, great character, has familiar foes already on the main roster, a Gunther, the guys in Imperium, and then just a whole laundry list of new competition. Could be an instant mid-card guy threat out the gate. Carmelo Hayes, same thing. Renowned champion, arguably the greatest North American champion in NXT history to some people. Someone who's accomplished a lot in NXT, doesn't need to do anything else. Looks good on the main roster. Has the in-ring abilities, has the swagger, the aura, as these kids say, to be on the main roster. Instant mid-card, could eventually build himself up to be a main event guy. Third person I would bring up, Baron Corbin. This is a guy who has kind of rebuilt himself. And if Braun is on the main roster, why not either A, bring them together as a tag team, because the Wolf Dogs are the best tag team so far this year, in my opinion. I think they've had a great series of matches, but he's just kind of done what he needed to do. We got the dirt off of Corbin. He feels fresh. The fans like him again. This is a guy who can instantly be thrown into the upper mid card, you know, be a person that can compete with guys on the main event seed. If he's really good. Corbin is super underrated, gets hate for no reason. He'll be great. Women's side, tag team. Let's rejoin Toxic Attraction. Gigi Dolan, JC Jane. JC Jane has a match this week coming up. I think she loses to Thea Hale. I think she has done all that she needs to do. Gigi doesn't really have much to do on NXT either. I think their bread and butter was a tag team. I think they look like $1,000,000. They need more actual tag team in the women's division for the title. Let's bring them up. I would also consider bringing up Lyra, because I think she is also a person that has done a lot. But I do want to see her go against Tatum Paxley before we close that ship. But that's a potential person. And I'll give you one last one. This is a wild card. It may or may not happen. But I think we should really consider bringing Tatum Paxley to the match.
I knew that was coming.
Because
I was
Tatum
so ready.
Paxley is the best character
Ah.
in professional wrestling for all women's wrestlers. I got an opportunity to talk on a daily. I'm gonna say this one last thing. Tatum Paxley is a women's character that is on the same boat as a Toni Storm. You give her the opportunity on the main roster, get that production like they're doing over there, she will be a star. She can be a great heel for potential rivals. I'm telling you, man, put her in the Wyatt 5. Why not? Let's go.
Wow.
Tatum.
I like it.
Wow, we're pushing her to the moon. I mean, Albert Turtles 77 just said that she reminds him of Sister Abigail. So, I mean, perhaps that's not actually that wild of a shout. Perhaps that is a possibility in the Wyatt 5, Wyatt 6. Number 1 says Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, Dragunov, Baron Corbin, Carmelo Hayes, and Mako Satomura.
No champs
is
though on
funny.
Roxanne, right?
It is, so she can't be drafted,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Roxanne
Roxanne,
cannot be drafted.
We talked about her yesterday on the show. I'll let y'all
Tatum's a
watch
good
that. I
call
want
shot, actually. Tatum is a good call. It's possible.
incredible call.
Josh, I want to get your thoughts on this. Who do you reckon they go into the black and, well, no longer the black and gold brand, the artist formerly known as the black and gold brand? Who do you reckon they're taking from that roster?
Yeah, so I did actually have Roxanne Perez until I read the rules saying champions were protected. So that's kind of out of the window. I mean, I guess my predictions are kind of just the normal ones. I don't really have many wild cards. I think Dragunov is a no-brainer. I do think Baron Corbin would be a great pick, just like Shad said. He reinvented himself very, very well in NXT. So let's get him another push going on the main roster. And Carmelo Hayes as well. For Dragunov's sake, he should join Imperium. That was my original thought. They can become the most dominant faction in WWE very, very fast. Gunther, Dragunov, Kaiser, send Vinci away, different roster, have him be a single star again, just like he was kind of in NXT. That could create some good storylines there with Vinci facing off against all of them on different occasions, as well as a long-awaited rematch of Gunther versus Dragunov. So I think that would all work out very, very well. If possible, I hope it is. And for Corbin and Hayes, I mean, Baron Corbin has already been on the main roster. I'm confident he can keep his character. He can be a great mid-card talent. And I think Carmelo Hayes is ready to face the top dogs, honestly. You know, give him the best WWE has to offer. I guarantee he will shine. I think his main roster debut after the draft should be a top star. I know if it wasn't for Seth Rollins' injury, of course, I would love it for it to be him. But I hope that's a big match that will happen down the road. But that is my overall list: Dragunov, Corbin, and Hayes. And I did want to add on really, really quickly. I know this isn't really the question, but if I could send someone to NXT, I would send Shinsuke Nakamura to make another NXT run. Now, it's not because
I wouldn't be mad at that.
Yeah, it's not because what he's doing in the main roster isn't good. It's just, what better way to attract viewers and get NXT? I mean, NXT already is hot, but what better way to make it even hotter than bring one of the most legendary NXT superstars of all time? And the reason I thought about this was Trick Williams versus Shinsuke, Oba Fime versus Shinsuke. Right when I thought of those two matches, yep, it's Sam NXT. that was my thought.
Oh, I'd love those. I think that is a great shout, and so does Matthew Daniel Leahy as well over on Instagram. Carlos is asking us if we're going to Clash at the Castle. So will be going, but I will not be. And I don't think Chaos is either currently. The tickets are very expensive. But, Clark, I want to get you in now, right? Because we heard Shad and Josh both talk about Carmelo Hayes. And here's the thing. I've been convinced for a long time. I mean, I thought last year he was going to get the call up. But this year, I mean, I was dead set on it. I mean, it's time. No doubt about it. But I'm going to be honest. I thought Trick was getting that call too. Now that Trick is staying in NXT, he's the NXT champion. I'm beginning to think they might run their match back. Melo versus Trick, one last time for the NXT championship. Do you think that's the case, or is he getting the call?
I think Melo gets the call up almost without a doubt in my mind. It's time to send Melo up. They also had him kind of test the waters on SmackDown. And I'm not saying it's a little telegraphed, but that felt a little telegraphed in some ways, right? We've seen him over on SmackDown enough times. In fact, I've got a pretty good feeling SmackDown is the destination. Not just that I think he is getting the call up. I think SmackDown's the destination in general when it comes to that. I think he's in their plans. I think Dragunov is basically a guarantee at this point. On the women's side, I've definitely, without question, got Lyra Valkyria. I think it's time to call Lyra up. She's done everything she needs to do in the women's division. If not for injury, I would add Cora Jade. Cora Jade's out for so long, I don't think it makes sense to draft her now. Although it would be cool to hear the name called, just to sort of remind us. It's been, I've heard nearly a year was the timeline, basically, from January with the torn ACL. But, that's going to be tough. That's going to be a tough road. I loved Shad adding Gigi and JC Jane. I think that would be awesome. Reunite Toxic Attraction. I'm all for that too. But on the men's side, I've got a couple other ones that I definitely think need to be called up, honestly. One of them is I think Josh Briggs is ready to go. And I think Josh Briggs could easily get drafted. Another big dude, whether it's Raw or SmackDown, that can be a heel. I think he's totally ready to go. Great move set and can work with a lot of people, especially in that Intercontinental or US Championship type division based on his character and everything. I think that's a good one. Joe Gacy, who I mentioned earlier as potentially a part of the Wyatt 5, I would not mind seeing his name called for sure. And then the only other one I'll add is if it's Tony D, I hope it's the whole family. Don't just send Tony D up and make him start by himself as the Don. Because I do think Tony D's earned it. I think he's ready. But he's got to have the family, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to have him have to almost feel like it's starting over and rebuild the family. Just bring the whole family up kind of as they are, reintroduce them as the family to the people that maybe don't know the history, don't necessarily watch NXT, but don't try to recreate the building of the family itself. And that would be my only caveat there. I mean, I wouldn't mind Metaphor and Noam Dar, the whole group, but I also am so entertained by them on NXT and don't think they'd have the time on the main roster. So selfishly, I don't want to see that. I do think they have the talent to translate on the main roster, but selfishly, I want to continue to be entertained by them because they crack me up every single week.
Yeah, and I mean, you made a great point just then about the family as well, where the main roster, and we've only seen one draft on the Triple H so far, and I think it was horrific. Right, I think it was maybe the worst draft they've ever done. But the fan, I do worry with call ups that they just ignore the NXT stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of your fan base watch NXT, a lot don't too, but just call them up and explain it. Like have him start with the family, like you said, and have Melo. Don't just ignore his past. Like just. That's what frustrates me. I'm going to be honest. I'm not as excited talking about these NXT call-ups as I used to be because I think they failed so many times.
Think about just watching like normal like sports, right? Whether it be soccer, football, or like college basketball. For me, you get a big recruit, and it's always like, oh, where did they come from? What were their numbers in high school, right? At the level before they reached here, what are they good at? What's the scouting report, right? And that's something that I think the WWE has kind of slightly missed the mark on when it comes to the call-ups. Use that. Take advantage of that. People love that, like being, feeling like you have inside knowledge, like, oh, I didn't know he was a two-time, right? I didn't know he accomplished all that. They put on that match. They did, it's a stone left unturned.
No doubt about it. But I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see. Hopefully they don't botch it. That's my hope. But like you said, Clark, I agree completely. Let's make it feel like, NXT is the developmental brand, and that's not an insult. That is just, what it is. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to Clark. Thank you to Shad. And thank you to Josh for joining me here today. We'll be back tomorrow, later start time, 11 p.m. UK, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific for the AEW Dynamite review and Throwback Thursday. So Clark, Shad, and Anthony will see you then. Peace.